On the morning of August 26, 2026, a sudden disaster struck the mountainous region of northern Nepal, near the border with Tibet. It was not caused by days of heavy rain. It was not the result of a major storm making landfall. Within a very short period of time, an enormous surge of water carrying mud, rocks, and debris rushed down from the high mountains, sweeping through communities, roads, bridges, and several hydropower facilities along the Bhote Koshi River. Images from the scene showed thick, gray floodwater tearing through populated areas. Homes were buried under mud and debris. Vehicles were swept away or trapped beneath sediment. Entire sections of road appeared to have vanished, and in the first hours after the disaster, the number of people reported dead or out of contact continued to rise. According to updates from Nepali media, by late afternoon on August 26, at least 22 people had been confirmed dead, while dozens of others were still missing. Earlier reports from international news agencies, Reuters, and the Associated Press had listed lower death tolls. As the situation was evolving rapidly and several affected areas remained cut off, but another figure has made the third search and rescue operation especially urgent. As many as 384 tourists and pilgrims were reported out of contact after the disaster. Among them were 291 foreign nationals and 93 Nepali citizens. Many were reportedly traveling toward the Kailash Mansarovar region in Tibet. Authorities stressed that being out of contact does not mean that all of these people were swept away by the flood. Power failures, disrupted mobile networks, and destroyed roads have made it extremely difficult to determine their exact locations. The epicenter of the disaster was in Rasuwa District, a rugged mountainous region in northern Nepal. At around 8:30 to 9 in the morning, residents in Timure and Syabrubesi reportedly heard a loud noise coming from upstream. Moments later, a powerful surge of water filled with mud and rocks rushed downstream. Some witnesses said they had almost no time to react. Timure, Syabrubesi, and several areas along the Bhote Koshi River suffered severe damage. As the floodwaters continued south and entered the Trishuli River system, communities in Nuwakot and other downstream areas were also affected. What has drawn particular attention from scientists is that the devastated area did not experience rainfall intense enough to explain the scale of the flood. So what happened high in the Himalayas? Initial assessments suggest that the disaster may have begun with a major ice rock avalanche or landslide near the Lhende River, close to the Nepal-Tibet border. A large mass of ice and rock is believed to have collapsed into the valley, blocking the river and creating a temporary natural dam. Water then began to accumulate behind the blockage. At some point, the natural dam may have become unable to withstand the growing pressure. The barrier failed, releasing a sudden and powerful surge of water downstream. As the flood moved through the steep Himalayan valleys, it picked up more soil, rocks, trees, and debris from the surrounding slopes. turning into a highly destructive debris-filled flash flood. Experts from the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, or ICIMOD, have suggested that an ice rock avalanche in the Lhende River area may have triggered the event. However, the final cause is still under investigation. Reuters also reported that if an earthquake with a magnitude of around 4.4 occurred in the region only minutes before the time recorded in some monitoring images. At this stage, there is no confirmation that the earthquake directly caused the landslide. It may simply have occurred around the same time. This is why scientists remain cautious in determining the exact chain of events. Meanwhile, the scale of destruction downstream is becoming increasingly clear. According to Nepalese road authorities, around 42 kilometers of road between Betra Wadi and the Rasuwa border area were severely damaged. Several concrete bridges along the route were also washed away. This road is one of the important transport corridors connecting Nepal with China. The 3,000 bombs, Tupest. Several hydropower projects located along the river valley were also damaged or forced to shut down. Reuters reported that around 430 megawatts of Nepal's hydropower capacity were affected, representing more than 12% of the country's total hydropower capacity. The impact was not limited to Nepal. Across the border, the Girong area of Tibet was also severely affected. Roads, electricity, and communication systems were disrupted. China deployed hundreds of rescue personnel to the border region. In Nepal, the army, police, and armed police force were deployed across the disaster zone. Dozens of military and civilian helicopters were mobilized to search for missing people, transport the injured, and bring rescue teams into areas cut off by damaged roads. However, the rugged terrain, destroyed infrastructure, and strong river currents have made rescue operations extremely difficult. Another threat may not yet be over. Experts have warned that materials still blocking parts of the upstream river could remain unstable. That means another sudden surge of water cannot yet be ruled out. Nepalese authorities have advised residents living along the Bhote Koshi and Trishuli rivers to stay away from riverbanks, especially in low-lying areas and places already showing signs of landslide activity. The August 26 disaster is even more significant because this is not the first major event of its kind in the region. Just over a year earlier, a major flood struck the same Bhote Koshi river system after a glacial lake in Tibet suddenly released water. That flood destroyed the Friendship Bridge linking Nepal and China and caused extensive damage around Rasuwa. Two major disasters in such a short period have raised serious questions about the growing vulnerability of the Himalayas. Scientists have long warned that rising temperatures are changing glaciers across the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. As glaciers melt, new lakes can form on or near the ice. At the same time, permafrost and mountain slopes that were once stabilized by low temperatures may become increasingly unstable. However, in the case of the August 26 disaster, it is still too early to say that climate change was the direct cause. What can be said with certainty is that an event in the high mountains near the border appears to have triggered an extremely rapid chain reaction. Ice and rock collapsed. A river was blocked. Water accumulated. The natural barrier failed. And within a very short time, millions of cubic meters of water, mud, and rock may have rushed through the valleys below before people had time to understand what was happening. By the evening of August 26, search and rescue operations were still ongoing. The number of people confirmed dead or missing may continue to change as rescue teams reach areas that remain isolated and in the valleys of Rasuwa. Families are still waiting for news of their loved ones, as Nepal faces one of the most serious mountain disasters of 2026. We will continue to follow this developing story and provide updates as authorities release new information about the death toll, the missing, the cause of the disaster, and ongoing rescue operations.
Ê, thằng nào nuôi luôn tao bảo. Con đâu, đâu. Mua tao mặt đi.